Before you conquer anything in the external world, you must first conquer the war happening inside your own skull. Most men spend their entire lives trying to control outcomes, control people, control circumstances, while losing control of the one thing that decides everything, which is their mind. And that's why they stay stuck. Because the greatest enemy you will ever face is not a rival, not a system, not bad luck. It is the undisciplined version of yourself that wakes up every morning and negotiates with weakness. If you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to rewire that version of yourself into something dangerous. Something focused. Something almost impossible to break. Not theory. Not motivation. But strategy. The same psychological principles used by men who move quietly, but dominate loudly. And before we go deeper, do this for me. Hit subscribe right now, not because I need it, but because if this kind of thinking resonates with you, you're not meant to consume average content. You're meant to build something sharper. Something disciplined. So subscribe, and let's get into it. The first principle is this. The general does not negotiate. He commands. He looks at his mind the way a strategist looks at a battlefield. He identifies weak points. He eliminates distractions. He fortifies what matters. Every thought you allow to drift without direction is enemy territory. Every distraction you entertain is a crack in your defense. Every time you choose comfort over clarity, you are handing your future over to something weaker than you. And I'll tell you this from experience. There was a time where I thought I needed more motivation. More inspiration. More energy. But what I actually needed was control. Because focus is not a feeling. It is a decision. A decision made with the awareness that time is the only resource you will never get back. Marcus Aurelius said it best, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Most people read that and nod. Few actually live it. Your mind is the battlefield. And right now, most men are losing on it without even realizing the war has already started. Now here's where it gets deeper. Because controlling your mind is one thing. But what you do under pressure, that's where most men collapse. The second principle is this. The general does not react. He calculates. Weak men react. They see something, feel something, and instantly respond. No pause. No thought. Just emotion. And in that moment, they give up control. They become predictable. Easy to manipulate. Easy to read. But the general moves differently. When pressure shows up, he doesn't rush. He observes. He studies. He measures the situation before making a move. Because every reaction reveals something about you. Every emotional response exposes a weak point. And understand this clearly. The world is designed to trigger you. Notifications. Opinions. Disrespect. Delays. Chaos. All of it is a test. And most men fail before they even realize they're being tested. I used to be that person. Quick to respond. Quick to defend. Quick to prove a point. And all it did was drain my energy and expose my patterns. Until I realized something simple. The moment you react without thinking, you've already lost the advantage. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But take that deeper. Your reaction is not just a response. It's information. It tells people exactly how to control you. So the general builds a wall between stimulus and response. Inside that wall, he thinks. He asks one question. What outcome am I engineering here? Not what do I feel? What outcome do I want? Feelings are data, not commands. And when you start operating like that, something shifts. You become harder to read, harder to provoke, harder to break. React, and you become predictable. Calculate, and you become untouchable. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people seem stuck no matter how hard they try? Same habits, same environment, same conversations, and they wonder why nothing changes. That brings us to the third principle. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The general eliminates everything that does not serve the mission. Not some things, but everything. Most men try to level up while holding on to what's holding them back. They keep draining friendships. They keep toxic habits. They stay in environments that shrink them. And then they wonder why progress feels slow. But here's the truth most people avoid. Your environment is not just influencing you. It is programming you. Every person you spend time with, every conversation you entertain, every space you exist in, is either sharpening you or dulling you. There is no neutral. And I had to learn this the hard way. There were people I thought I needed to keep around. Habits I thought were harmless. But when I actually stepped back and audited my life honestly, I saw the pattern. Everything around me was reinforcing the version of me I was trying to outgrow. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Simple. But most people ignore it because it requires sacrifice. The general doesn't ignore it. He acts on it. He asks himself hard questions. Does this person elevate me or drain me? Does this habit build me or weaken me? Does this environment move me forward or keep me stuck? And then he makes the cut. Not out of hate. Not out of ego. Out of necessity. Because you cannot build something powerful while carrying dead weight. So here's what I want you to do. Quietly. No announcement. No drama. Just honesty. Start removing what you know is holding you back. And watch what happens. Because what you remove from your life will often do more for you than what you add. Now stay with me. Because the next principle is where most people sabotage everything without even realizing it. Now this next one, this is where most men lose power without even noticing it. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack potential. But because they cannot control one simple thing. They cannot their mouth. The fourth principle is this. Silence is your most dangerous weapon. Look around. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The one explaining everything, proving everything, announcing everything, is usually the one trying to convince others, and himself, that he has control. But real power doesn't need to explain itself. It moves. Quietly. Precisely. Without unnecessary noise. And I'll be honest with you. This was something I had to learn by watching my own mistakes. There was a time I felt the need to explain my decisions. To defend my choices. To make people understand my vision. And every time I did that, I lost leverage. I gave away information. I made myself easier to read. Because every word you speak unnecessarily is a leak. Every plan you announce too early becomes exposed. Every emotion you display openly becomes something that can be used against you. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." But that applies beyond anger. Silence creates space. And space gives you control. The general understands something most people don't. Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. It forces others to reveal more than they intend. It keeps your position hidden. It allows you to observe without being observed. And in a world where everyone is constantly talking, posting, reacting, the man who can stay silent becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. So start practicing this. Speak with intention. Or don't speak at all. You don't need to explain your goals. You don't need to defend your standards. You don't need to broadcast your next move. Let people wonder. Let them guess. Let them underestimate you. And when you finally move, let your results speak. Now we go deeper. Because even if you master your mind, control your reactions, cut distractions, and move in silence, there is still one force that can destroy everything if left unchecked. Which is your hunger. The fifth principle is this. The man who controls his hunger controls his destiny. And I'm not just talking about ambition. I'm talking about desire. The kind that pulls you toward comfort. Toward validation. Toward quick pleasure. Because understand this clearly. Most men don't get destroyed by their enemies. They get destroyed by themselves. By their lack of discipline. By their inability to say no to what feels good in the moment. You've seen it. Talented people with potential, but fall off. People who build something, then lose it. Not because they couldn't succeed. But because they couldn't sustain it. And I've been there too. Chasing short-term satisfaction. Thinking I was making progress, when in reality, I was just feeding impulses. Until I realized something that changed everything. Desire is not the enemy. Uncontrolled desire is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That's not fear. That's clarity. It forces you to prioritize what actually matters. The general doesn't eliminate hunger. He directs it. He uses it. He turns it into fuel. But controlled fuel. Focused fuel. Because fuel without control doesn't power you. It destroys you. And this is where most people fail. They don't train their ability to delay gratification. They don't build the discipline to choose long-term outcomes over short-term relief. But when you do, something powerful happens. You stop being controlled by your impulses. You stop reacting to every craving. You start operating from intention. And that's when you become dangerous. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop this in the comments. My hunger obeys me. Not as motivation. As a standard. Because the moment you start living like that, you separate yourself from most people. Now don't lose focus. Because what I'm about to show you next is where everything starts to compound. This is where the real transformation begins. The strategy almost nobody has the discipline to follow. Build in the dark. This is the point where most people fall off. Not because they can't do the work, but because they can't do it without being seen doing it. The sixth principle is this. The general builds in silence while the world is distracted. There comes a moment in your life where you have to make a decision that most people will never understand. The decision to disappear. Not permanently. Not dramatically. But strategically. To stop announcing your progress. To stop performing your growth. To stop needing people to see you becoming. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The moment you start broadcasting your goals, your brain starts confusing attention with achievement. You talk about it, people react, you get validation, and your mind starts to feel like the work is already done. So you slow down. You lose urgency. You become satisfied too early. I've seen it happen. I've experienced it. Talking about what I was going to do, instead of actually doing it. Feeling productive without producing anything real. And that's why most people stay stuck in cycles. They announce. They get attention. They fade. Then repeat. But the general doesn't play that game. He moves quietly. He builds when nobody is watching. He improves without needing applause. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Notice, he didn't say announce it. He said become it. Because when you move in silence, you remove interference. No opinions. No expectations. No pressure to perform. Just pure execution. And there's another layer to this. When people don't see your progress, they can't predict your outcome. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability is control. Think about it. When your next move is unknown, nobody can position themselves against you. Nobody can block what they can't see. So disappear for a while. Go quiet. Not because you're lost, but because you're building something. And when you come back, don't explain it. Don't justify it. Let your results introduce you. So type this in the comments right now. I build in silence. Because the ones who understand that are already operating differently. Now listen carefully. Because what we're about to step into is the foundation of everything we've talked about so far. This is what separates men who start strong from men who finish strong. The seventh principle is the psychology of the unbreakable man. There's a type of man the world doesn't fully understand. He's been hit, tested, broken in ways most people would never admit. And yet he stands. Not because life was easy on him. Not because he avoided pain. But because somewhere along the way, he built something inside himself that cannot be easily shaken. Which is his will. And let me be real with you. This isn't built overnight. This isn't built through comfort. This isn't built by avoiding pressure. It's built by going through it. Facing it. Choosing the harder path when the easier one is right there. Because every time you choose difficulty over comfort, you reinforce something inside you. You prove to yourself that you can handle more. And that proof becomes confidence. Not the loud type. Not the performative type. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need validation. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Most people hear that and avoid difficulty anyway. The unbreakable man leans into it. He doesn't wait for problems to show up before preparing himself. He builds strength before he needs it. Because he understands something simple. Life will test you. Not sometimes. Not maybe. But always. And if you're not ready, you break. But if you've trained your mind, if you've faced discomfort voluntarily, if you've built discipline under pressure, then when life hits you, you don't panic. You don't collapse. You execute. Epictetus taught that there are things within your control, and things outside of it. The unbreakable man lives by that. He doesn't waste energy on what he can't control. He focuses everything on what he can. His effort. His mindset. His response. And over time that creates something powerful, which is stability. He becomes someone who doesn't get easily shaken. Someone who doesn't react emotionally to every situation. Someone who can stand in chaos and still think clearly. And people feel that. Even if they can't explain it. They sense it. So let me ask you something. When pressure shows up, who are you? Because that answer is everything. Now stay locked in. Because the next principle is going to force you to look at something most people avoid completely. This is your circle. This is where a lot of men sabotage their own growth without realizing it. Not because they lack discipline, but because they are surrounded by people who quietly reinforce their limits. The eighth principle is this. Your circle sets your ceiling. Whether you like it or not, the people around you shape you. Not just your behavior, your thinking. Your standards. Your expectations. You don't just spend time with people. You absorb them. And this is subtle. Dangerous, because it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels normal. Comfortable. Familiar. But familiar doesn't mean beneficial. I had to confront this myself. There were conversations I kept having that led nowhere. Mindsets I kept being exposed to that made mediocrity feel acceptable. And slowly, without noticing, it started affecting how I thought. Not dramatically. Gradually. That's how it works. Seneca said, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm." That's not an insult. That's a warning. Because when you start leveling up, something uncomfortable happens. You change. Your standards rise. Your discipline increases. Your mindset sharpens. And not everyone around you will like that. Some will question you. Some will downplay your goals. Some will try to pull you back to who you used to be. Not out of hate, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. And if you're not aware of this, you'll shrink to stay accepted. The general doesn't. He chooses his circle the way he chooses strategy. Carefully. Intentionally. Without compromise. He surrounds himself with people who challenge him. People who build. People who are moving forward. Because 5 people moving with purpose will elevate you more than 50 people standing still. So take a moment. Be honest. Who are you around the most? And more importantly, who are you becoming because of them? You don't need to make noise about it. You don't need to announce changes. Just start adjusting your environment. Because when your environment changes, your trajectory changes. Now we go deeper. Because even with the right mindset, the right discipline, the right circle, most people still fail for one reason. They can't wait. The ninth principle. The long game. In a world built on instant gratification, patience is a weapon. Everything around you is designed to make you move fast. Scroll fast. Decide fast. Quit fast. But fast doesn't mean effective. Movement doesn't mean progress. And the man who moves quickly in the wrong direction just fails faster. I had to learn this the hard way. Wanting results too quickly. Expecting progress to show immediately. Getting frustrated when things didn't happen on my timeline. Until I realized something simple. Anything meaningful takes time. Marcus Aurelius said, "No great thing is created suddenly." And yet most people expect their lives to change overnight. The general doesn't rush. He thinks long-term. He builds long-term. He understands that real progress compounds. And here's what makes this powerful. When you start thinking long-term, you stop reacting to short-term emotions. You stop quitting when things get slow. You stop chasing quick wins that lead nowhere. You start building something real. Because patience is not passive. It is active discipline. It is showing up when results aren't visible. It is continuing when motivation fades. And most people can't do that. Which is why if you can, you gain an advantage that's hard to compete with. So let me give you something simple to hold on to. Ignore the noise. Focus on the mission. Stay consistent. And trust the process long enough to see it work. Now we're here. Everything we've talked about leads to this final principle. The one that ties everything together. The 10th principle. You are the weapon. Not your environment. Not your circumstances. Not your excuses. But you. Everything changes the moment you fully understand that. Because once you stop waiting for the perfect situation, once you stop blaming external factors, once you take full control, you become dangerous. Not loud. Not aggressive. Dangerous in a controlled, focused, intentional way. A man who has mastered his mind. Controlled his reactions. Eliminated distractions. Moved in silence. Directed his hunger. Built resilience. Chosen his circle. And committed to the long game. Is not easy to stop. Machiavelli's ideas weren't meant for everyone. They were meant for the few willing to see reality clearly and act accordingly. And that's the real question. Are you one of them? Because this isn't about motivation. It's about decision. A decision to stop negotiating with weakness. A decision to operate differently. A decision to become someone who doesn't just talk about change, but lives it. So do this right now. Drop this in the comments. I am the general. Say it with intention. Because the moment you start identifying that way, your actions begin to follow. And if this message hit you, if you felt something shift while listening, subscribe to Stoic Quiet Strength. Because this is just the surface. And before you go, listen closely. Most people will watch this, feel motivated, and go right back to their old patterns. But the next video is where we break that cycle completely. I'm going to show you the exact mental habits that help you focus on yourself while you stay silent. Don't miss that. Click the next video now. Because the war isn't over. It's just beginning.